Hi, I'm Jody Lane with Accelerated Medical Practices, and we host a monthly mastermind just for hormone clinic owners and providers. And it's designed to help you solve the real world challenges you face in your clinic every day. Each session starts with a short teaching topic, just like the one you're about to watch, led by the AMP team. Then we dive into live problem solving with the group. And whether you share, contribute, or just listen, you're going to walk away with something useful to improve or streamline your practice. It's low cost, it's no commitment, and you get the replay if you miss it. And because I really want you to check it out, I'm going to give you your first month absolutely free. Just email me at Jody, Jody, at acceleratedmedicalpractices.com with the word mastermind, and I'll send you the invite. You've got nothing to lose and a whole community to gain.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming tonight or watching this recording. Tonight, we have a great topic. It's going to be presented by our marketing expert, Jamie Lane. He's the best man I know. So we're going to be talking about some tips for PPC, pay-per-click advertising. He is the wizard, and I'm going to let him take it away. Jamie, I
All
believe
right.
you can share.
Thank you, Patrick, for that share and glowing start. I love it. Let me go ahead and get everything kicked off. Let me know when you can see my screen and we are good to go.
I got double vision.
Fantastic. Okay, so welcome to today's mastermind, this month's mastermind teaching topic, which is tips for pay-per-click advertising. And so the goal of this is really to find the best way to get the most out of your ad dollars, make them work harder, because we know that the lifeblood of your practice is getting patients from any resource possible, and digital ads are one of the best ways to reach a broad audience quickly. And so the intent of this presentation is not about training you to how to run ads yourselves, but to more so just understand how to evaluate PPC, how to evaluate your results, how to work with a partner who might be doing it for you, and really get the whole infrastructure down. The goal that I want you to walk away with today is really being able to, is 5 things, is understand the most common reasons ads fail, how to choose the right ad platform for you, because there's multiple platforms that exist out there, create a messaging and creative that actually connects with your patients. Make sure you know you make sure you focus on results and turning clicks into patients and how to get those. And then knowing your key numbers that you should be watching, and so that you're not wasting your budget. So on that note, let's go ahead and just dive right in. All right, so to start off, why do ads fail? It is such an important process. And I'd like to start off with this foundation is because for many of us that have tried digital ads before, it is painful. You may have successes, you may have spent too much money, you may have gone through multiple marketing agencies and not gotten the results. And a lot of times you're wondering, like, is it the person? Is it the ads? Is it what I'm doing? And so trying to understand that foundation of why ads potentially fail will help you become a better pay-per-click provider. And so the foundation is good ads make your systems better. You'll get better quality leads. You'll get better quality patients. But bad ads will make bad systems even worse. It'll put a spotlight on. You'll spend more dollars. You'll get traffic that doesn't understand you. You'll have wasted effort, and you'll spend more time and money that you really wanted to do. And so what I really want to share is, the common reasons why ads can fail. A lot of times it's not the ad itself. You have things such as a poor website. Where are you sending the person to? What are you asking them to do? Do you have, structures in place to be able to contact your potential patients or leads right away? Do you have someone in place that can pick up the phone and say, hey, please, I saw that you were interested in becoming a patient. How long does it take you to call them back? Slow callbacks can kill your ROI before your ad has even had a chance. Other aspects are what's called creative fatigue. Patients stop noticing your ads that they've seen too often. Many people put on a set it and forget it mentality with advertising. They create an ad, they put it out there, and they let it run for months. But what happens is most common when people start seeing the same thing over and over again, it's the same as if you're driving down the highway. You've probably seen that billboard 100 times, but at some point you've just completely tuned it out of your head. And so it's important to really get clear about, what can be the cause of where ads fail to help you mitigate that in advance. Because fixing your roadblocks before adding any spend is cheaper than fixing it later. So let's kind of get into the simple math that you should try to understand fundamentally before getting into the advertising. And so what I really want to get into is knowing, how much money you need to put into your digital advertising to get the results you need. Now, I want to walk through a simple hypothetical scenario, just so you can really see the results just kind of clearly. And then you have to know that these are not verbatim. They'll differ for every single person. So imagine for a second that each of your leads, someone who clicked on an ad to come to you, costs $100. And based off of your potential conversion scenario, which might be how many patients do you and your team have to call in order for one of them to come in? So if you have a $100 cost per lead, and it takes you 10 leads in order to make one patient conversion, that means your cost per patient is $1,000. Those numbers can scale very quickly, and that's where things such as optimizing your ad target, optimizing your conversion, understanding these metrics are so important, because otherwise your dollars into the advertising can skew wildly, and it can also have you miss budget. So if you know that the cost per patient is going to cost you $1,000 and you only put $500 into your ad budget, you may not even get that one patient. So that $500 just kind of disappears. And again, I stressed this before, is everyone's numbers are different. And so that's where you have to test, you have to evolve, but you have to know the metrics. So your patient cost is just the number of leads you need times your lead cost. And the game that you always should be trying to play is, how do I improve that? And the only way to improve that is make sure you record it. So it's just as a quick kind of a side reference is, as a provider, you would never run a patient panel without labs. So don't run ads without knowing your numbers. So how do you pick the right platform? People tell you all the time, you should advertise on Google, you should advertise on Facebook, you should advertise on Instagram, you should advertise on TikTok. There's so many channels that exist out there. And the question is, where should you go and what's right for you? And so from doing this for a very long time, we're working with many providers, working with many advertising, the important stress that I'd like to push for is you really want to generate your own brand awareness, your storytelling, your connection first. And the best platform to do that is through Meta. And why is that? Because it's a very visual platform. The people that are on it are flipping through, and you can reach them at a location level, their lifestyle, their interests, their demographic, men, women, age 40 to 60. They relate to personality. It's about reaching them and trying to create a relationship with them. And the reason why I recommend doing that before doing Google as your second platform is because Google is what's considered search intent based advertising. They know what they want. And so if they type in, I want a hormone provider in New York, for example, that's a very specific search, but then you're competing against everyone else who's bidding on that term, and your cost per click are much higher. And a very important nuance is a click is not a lead. It takes a certain number of clicks for someone to get to your website to even see your web page. And if you don't have a high converting web page or a funnel that they go into, it could take you 100 or more clicks to even have a lead. And back to the previous example, if it took you 10 leads to get a patient, that could be potentially 1,000 clicks. And so let's say you had a cost per click of $15 to $20, that number scales massively, very quickly. So it's so important to really get clear about the metrics, the nuances, and how you want to target and how you want to position yourself to really have your ad in front of the right audience before you scale to different platforms. Rule of thumb is master a platform and get results before you try to go to other platforms. Another healthcare nuance, which I'd like to throw in there, is for Google, it really is important that you might even require legit script for some of the ads. And legit script is a healthcare compliance system that you have to apply and certify yourself as to allow yourself to even be known as a digital advertiser. And that's a consideration. So you don't want to have your account banned. And that's why you want to, that's how you can help choose your platform to make sure what's right for you. Because if you don't know some of those compliance rules, you want to choose the one that's easiest to get into fundamentally. All right. So when choosing platforms, the order of the platform, I believe, strongly matters. And going back to what I said before is, start with Meta to build trust. And so oftentimes when you start advertising, if someone doesn't know you at all, and there's 5, 6, 7 different people that are trying to advertise in the same space, you want to create a relationship. You want to create a relationship to your brand, who you are. Let them get to know you on a personal level, what you believe in, what your values are, what you offer, know your face, know your presentation, get to know your brand. So that way, when you get into a conversation about trying to ask someone to become a patient, it's more of a relationship building system that when you finally get to that point, they say, I've seen your ads a few times before. I kind of trust who you are and what your message is, and it should align to you. When to move into Google later on, since it's search traffic, you can't build relationship off of search because they don't even know you, that you are just a result in a search query. So again, if you're looking for bioidentical hormones, there might be 4 advertising listings, and then there might be 100 other, web page listings. They don't know how to compare you against anyone else, and they're not going to click through every single page. And so if there was an existing relationship where they saw you in a video presence or in a great ad presence, when they see your Google ads second, that relationship is already sound. So they might be more likely to click on your ads, therefore more likely for you to spend less money on that same ad. So you wouldn't want to start treatment without having a baseline. Again, it's that same principle we were just talking about before. So next important aspect about tips within advertising is your messaging and creative is so important. This is one of the most critical elements that can cause your ads to fail is when it's off. And so from doing so much testing, some great data research, and seeing the results firsthand, video outperforms everything else. 100%. So a video ad will always beat a static image ad. A video ad will beat a text Google ad, hands down. And so take that one step further, a video ad that has a woman on camera in it pushes the results even more positively further. And that's just because, as studies show that, more men are engaged with a woman on camera, but more women also feel more related to a woman on camera. It's a little bit softer sell. And so it doesn't mean if you are a male provider or a female provider that you have an advantage or not, but you do want to understand that there are optics to get around for advertising. And if you can get a woman on video in some capacity as part of your advertising efforts, you will probably see an uptick in results. Another important aspect is, you want to show your patient challenges. You don't want to tell facts about what you do. If you say, I offer weight loss, I offer hormones, I offer injections, I offer GLP-1s, those are facts. And there are so many people that are competing on the facts that they can just look at you and going, okay, you're just another fact provider. So you do this service, I can check other 10 other people. What people are really looking for is the pain and hope that you can provide. Like they have a pain they're going through, and they're hoping that you are that solution. And they want to resonate with that solution with you and that you can solve that problem. So when you position your advertising as a pain-based message and the challenge that you understand the patients go through and how you are that resource to help them resolve it, you will get better relationship building. They'll have the better trust with you in the first place. And so one step further is with video. Patients, trust providers they've virtually met. If they've seen your video on YouTube, on Meta, on Instagram, and you've tried it out a few times, they start to get to know you, your personality, your face, your tone, how approachable you are. And so that again builds a relationship in advance. So when they call in and say, I would like to be a patient, they want to call in because they want to be a patient for you because they already understand, your mannerisms, your dialect, your approach. They want to become part of your tribe, and you want to choose people that like you for you. And if they choose someone else, it's okay, but the people that will like you will gravitate towards you because they've met you. Lastly, you want to keep it personal and authentic. You really want to keep the video ads to between 30 seconds and 2 minutes tops, because that creates a quick message, has a great relationship with them, and you want to build upon that. That's a great way to engage from a brand perspective. That's a great way to engage from even a early stage selling perspective about what you do and how you can resolve their problems. Longer video is fundamentally really well received when it gets into education, which patients trust that as part of their process. If they're not certain about the solution you're providing and they want more education, something that's 3 to 5 minutes can really pull them into that world. And that's a valuable ad. But you want to think through the type of ad that you want to do, because there are different ads for different purposes, like brand awareness or lead generation or education or engagement, or trying to have someone follow you on social media. There's a purpose for every single ad, and you want to think through what is the reason I'm trying to advertise and why. So what I like to tell my providers when I get them on camera to do any form of video advertising is talk to the screen like you're talking to a patient across from you. Speak to them in that same manner. Educate them in that same manner. Have that same tone of voice and authority. Be you. And if you can shine through your authentic self that way, it relays to the patient that's watching you. All right. So one thing that's easy to mess up inside of advertising, if you get a great ad and you choose the right platform, is if you don't align the message to where you're directing them to. And so what I mean by that is your ad has some form of message, and you should try to make it singular. You shouldn't try to say, we have everything under the sun, we can solve all your problems at once, because that muddies the message. But let's say it was a singular focus, such as just weight loss, for example. If you're talking about weight loss and someone relates to that and they engage with that, where you tell them to go, such as your landing page or your website or what you want them to do and how you want to ask them, that message must match. So because we want to create alignment to what they're looking for. Audience needs to be educated on what you know, and the more familiar audiences are invited to, see, to take action, to book an appointment or do something, they want to make sure that that first message that brought them to where you are in the first place, that landing page, aligns to what you're telling them to do. So for example, with weight loss, you're saying, hey, we can offer these great solutions, and then you just send them to your homepage. And there's no direction about what you want them to do. That disconnect of the message really has them potentially drift off. And that is a misalignment where your message doesn't go to what you are hoping them to accomplish. And so, like I said, that page that you direct them to really is more specifically better when you have that focus to the exact same content of the ad, because it creates a connection to them to say, oh, I saw this content, the message here is the same, I'm really ready to book an appointment or do whatever you ask them to do next, such as a quiz. So consistency is so important. It builds trust, and you don't want to change that conversation along the way. Otherwise, they might get confused and bail. So next is making the most of your traffic. And what I mean by that is if you're spending money to attract clicks, and again, not all clicks are leads and not all clicks are patients, but you're attracting people for eyes on an end resource. That could be from a brand perspective, go to your homepage to understand who you are and what you offer. From a lead generation perspective, it might be a landing page that says, book an appointment or download this guide or join new patient orientation of that nature. So to get the most of your traffic, you really want to have your ad and page one, tell a patient story, pull them in, but you want to give them different outs. So not everyone is in a buyer's mindset. Not everyone's ready to become a patient every step of the way. And if they're not ready to book a consult or call you up and say, I'm ready to become a patient right now, but they were interested enough to see you, you want to give them other tactics for you to potentially communicate with them later. That could be taking a quiz, download a guide, watch a video, join a new patient orientation, something that has them engage with you further. Because asking for them to become a patient might be the same as asking someone to prom on the very first time you meet them. It's a bit much, and not everyone's ready for that. If someone's in that stage, they'll raise their hands and say, I will pick up the phone and call you right now. but you want to allow for other people who aren't quite there yet, that you can still maintain that conversation. And so one of the great opportunities inside of your advertising to do that is use a dedicated landing page. You really want to make sure that your traffic, when it gets there, so you can tell them specifically to do the one thing you want them to do. You have a quiz campaign, have them learn more, make sure the one thing you want them to do on that page is do the quiz. Like follow through that methodology so that you create that consistency, you create that trust, and you have some out for them so that you can communicate with them down the road. The tip here is, always give them that next step because they're not always ready. Next is about follow-up and conversation optimization. If they finally filled out some form, they communicated with you for a quiz, or they're booking with you for an appointment, or they downloaded a book or a guide. What you want to do is when they're ready to be communicated with, that speed to contact is so important. They say that the stats show this, is that from a speed to lead perspective, the first 10 minutes matter the most. And so if you can somehow reach out to them from an email or a text message within 10 minutes of them filling out a form, they're 80% more likely to engage with you. And if you don't engage with them over 3 or 4 days, they're almost 100% not likely to engage with you. And that stat is overwhelming because you've paid for them to come to your site. They wanted to engage with you. They clicked on the advertising. They even filled out a form because they're interested in some capacity. But it could be 2 in the morning. It could be 2 in the afternoon. You don't know the world that they were in when they made that decision. So it's important to have systems in place that allow you to create that instantaneous communication opportunity, and you have teams in place to have follow-ups as quick as possible. Next is you really want to track what happens every step of the way to really optimize that flow, where that communication breakdown might exist. So if they click on a form or they took a call or you're taking bookings, you need to have some form of platform that tracks that so you know what is your engagement rate. How often do people pick up the phone when your team calls? How many times do they reply to your text, or do they actually come in to book an appointment? And if there are failures in those moments, that's where you can look at maybe it's not the ad fault or the landing page fault. That's your communications follow-up system that could be at fault, that could be improved because you're already getting that traffic. Now you just have to optimize how you communicate with them after you got that traffic. And so that optimization can really scale your results from bad to fantastic really quickly. And so inside of that, you also want to make sure you earn their trust before asking for their commitment. And so a lot of times, if you just jump right into trying to book a call style advertising, send them to a consultation page, book now, it again could be too premature. They're not necessarily ready, and say they may just be gun shy. They may even fill out a form going, I'm interested in your services, but I just wanted a little bit more information. And now an unknown caller is calling me. I got an unknown text from someone that's not clear. I got an email that was rather vague. And so sometimes you just need to nurture them more. You have to give them the methodology to allow for, hey, if you're not ready to commit, that's okay. What can we do to help you? Well, how can you enhance that patient communication experience prior to them even being ready to becoming a patient? So your tip here is make sure your follow-up speed is often worth more than your ad budget. Because again, it doesn't matter how many leads you get in, if you can't communicate with them before they lose interest with you, was it even worth it? All right, next section is about tracking and oversight. These is in my opinion, the 5 most important metric terms that you should understand what they are, how they work, and what it means to you. And so one is the CTR, and that's what's called the click-through rate. How often do people click on your ads? And so the click-through rate really is a strong indicator about how interesting your ad is. And so if you run a campaign very quickly on and you see that you have a very, very low click-through rate, that means your message isn't compelling or your audience isn't well defined. So that is a great early stage opportunity. Instead of trying to fix your landing page or where they're going or your follow-up system, is you're like, how do we change that message to be better appealing? And you change that area. Next is your conversion rate, your CVR. And that is, how often the clicks that go to wherever landing page you send them to become leads. And by leads, they filled out a form to become a patient, to download something, to join a webinar. And so that value is really important in terms of identifying, is your page communicating the right message? Is it aligned to the ad, what you asked them to? And is the value clear to them about what you're asking them to do? And if it's not clear, instead of throwing a different ad out there and hoping for a better result next time, you may want to look at, well, how can I maybe improve that page and that path to increase the conversion rather than trying out a number of different ads? Next is your cost per lead. And this is your barometer. This should be the one that you're always striving to constantly improve. Your cost per lead is how many marketing dollars does it take to get one lead, not one patient, one lead, one person that filled out the form that says, I'm interested in becoming a patient at some point in the future. And so the higher your cost per lead, the more leads it takes to become a patient, and the higher your cost per patient goes up. And so that could scale your ad budget very quickly, because let's say you had a $1,000 ad budget and your cost per lead was $250. That means you might get 4 leads. And if you can't close 1 in 4, then your advertising budget's not being used very great. And so the opportunity goes to always try to improve that. How do you enhance that? You want to look at metrics such as, is the video ad performing? Am I using video ads? Is the message clear? Is the landing page clear? You always want to constantly push that, and what budget you have to work with. Because again, if you don't have a high enough budget to meet that cost per lead, you probably won't get enough leads to get any results. Next after that is the customer acquisition cost, or the patient acquisition cost. And that is how much cost does it take to actually acquire one patient? And so that's really based off of, how many leads it takes to get one patient. And in today's, modern communication world, a lot of people who fill out the forms don't pick up the phone anymore when your team calls them, because it's coming from an unknown number. It's coming from, unclear, where is this from? People are suspicious of, solicitation from salespeople, so they want to screen their calls in advance. And that follow-up is so important, because if you can't reach a person on the phone, or you can't reach a person via SMS or email, then it doesn't matter that you have their contact information or not, they've disappeared. And so that follow-up process, how you leave a voicemail is critical. How you communicate in a text message about who you are and what you're doing is critical. How you communicate with them in the email is critical. And all those help reduce that customer acquisition cost, because it changes the likelihood of you being able to reach them and potentially say, our solution is right for you. And the inverse of that is, if you can't reach them, your cost will go up, because it takes more leads in order to get to one patient. And that is a huge factor that will change your budget massively. You always want to have the highest conversion rate possible from leads to patients as possible. Next element of that, after that, is the lifetime value of a patient. And this should be your business fundamentals. If you don't know what your patient is worth to you per person, how much you expect to potentially make off them off of a lifetime, a year, is it 3 years? Do you know how much you charge per patient? Because this allows you to gauge whether or not your marketing results are working. Even, let's say you have a high cost per lead and a high cost per patient. Are you being profitable? And if you don't know what your patient's worth, you don't know if you're going to be profitable. So you may spend a lot of money and you still get patients, but at the end of the day, somehow you're not breaking even. Well, if you don't know those metrics and you realize, what, I need a lower cost per patient, or I need a lower cost per lead in order to be profitable, you have to be able to understand where those metrics come from and what it takes to get to it. And last is the ROI. ROI is your return on investment, or your return on marketing investment. And that's how much marketing money you put out there and what do you expect to get back from that. And that, again, is a barometer of the success of the campaign. So knowing all of these allows you to mathematically look at how you need to approach it like a game, what you need to change. And when you record it and you make some form of change, such as a new agency or a new ad campaign or a new result, you should have a baseline and say, well, this worked before and I want to improve this. And if it improved, fantastic. Use that type of campaign more. If it didn't work, stop it early, make sure you save your budget, and go back to what was working in the past and find a new test. All right, so why do these numbers matter? I kind of already alluded to it, but I want to kind of quickly repeat it here. So a low C2R, a low click-through rate means your ads aren't getting attention. They're just not catching, someone, they may not be visually captivating. They may not be interesting. They may not tell the right story about what someone's looking for. Next is, improving your conversion rate can have the highest impact on your results because, so think of it this way, if it takes, 20 clicks to get one lead. So that is a not just blanket, 20% conversion rate, or I'm sorry, 5% conversion rate. And so if you convert that, if you cut that in half, and it only takes 10 clicks to get a lead, that is half your budget because you pay cost per click. So you immediately cut your ad budget, your results double right off the bat. So instead of saying, I'm just going to double my ad budget and get the same 20 clicks to get a lead, you can say for that same 20 clicks, I could have gotten somehow twice as much leads. So the value increases. So it's important that conversion rate is the fundamental bottom line thing to focus on fixing before saying, I just need to throw more ads, more dollars at the ads. Next is your cost per lead and customer acquisition cost. So those show if your marketing is profitable, and profitability is the foundation of what you're trying to accomplish here. Just because you got a patient and if it's not profitable, then that's not the right solution for you. You want to reassess your profitability because the end of the game is you want to have a profitable practice. Lastly is your lifetime value and your ROI. And those measure the long-term value from your patients. And this really is looking at what not just was this ad campaign successful, but what is the lifeblood of your practice? Are you showing that you are increasing your practice's financial capability? You're increasing the long-term results. You can bring on more staff. You can reinvest more of that money back into marketing, and it help you determine what your capability of adding more financial dollars for marketing or for resources can do. And so the important thing I would suggest is review your metrics weekly because small fixes make big impacts. And again, one of the early things I had mentioned is you put your advertising on autopilot and check once every 3 or 4 months. You have no idea what's going on. So you could be spending a lot of money and getting no results. So here's a quick PPC readiness checklist. And so what I want you to do is, ask yourself these questions, whether or not, are you prepared for that? This is really helping you set up to go, should you be able to jump into advertising right now? Or are there things you may want to consider doing in advance? So question number 1 is your site or landing page optimized? Do you have the capability of knowing what your site or landing page is optimized? Where do you intend to send your traffic to? If it's just to your homepage, do you ask them to do something while you're there? Do you have a system in place to create landing pages and forms? Do you have a follow-up plan? Do you have a CRM in place that allows you to nurture patients after they communicate with you? And if you don't, what is your current follow-up plan? If someone phones in, are you able to record their information and call them back right away? Do you know what your budget per patient is? And if it exceeds that, do you have a plan in place for how much you are allowed, you can go over that to test different elements for marketing? And if you don't even know what your budget is, maybe you should, do you have the capability of saying, how much flexibility of cash do you have to spend to really get through? And what do you need to accomplish with it? Are your goals realistic? And this is a very important one, is, if you don't set goals that are realistic, and so just having access to advertising, say, I hope to get a patient for $20. That's a pretty lofty situation in today's modern advertising market because there's so much competitors. The costs that are rising inside of Meta, inside of Instagram, inside of Google, there's cost per clicks. And when you create a goal saying, I want this patient to cost this much, you have to work that math backwards. Like, to cost per patient means how many leads do you need to get to that patient? How many leads does it take? How many clicks does it take to get the one lead? How many impressions of your ad do you need to get to that number of clicks? Like, it's a scaled ladder that's so important. So when you look at it, are your goals realistic? And if you don't have an idea about goals, then it's good to try to, at least come up with some foundation to try to determine, is this possible or not? Do you understand your campaign timeline? And what I mean by that is, when you create advertising, you don't want to be changing it every day because you're not getting enough data. You're not getting enough results. If you don't get enough clicks and you don't get enough leads, you have to allow something to run for a little bit to learn from it. Because otherwise you're just not getting the right level of accuracy, the right level of confidence that the data show that that indicates this is working or not working. Because if you ever only got, 5 clicks on an ad, well, that's not enough to know whether or not it's optimized yet. It just means that you just haven't gotten enough in front of enough people yet. And so you have to have a certain amount of data to determine, and a certain amount of time as well, to determine whether or not the results mean something and what should you do about it. Should you add more money to it? Should you optimize it? Should you change it altogether? And that takes time. And if your timeline is really restricted, I need a result in 1 week. And again, going back to goals that are realistic, you really want to make sure that you are clear about how long does it take to understand what it takes to understand your data. Lastly is, are you clear on who your ideal patient is and what action you want them to take? And so with that is, knowing your ideal patient is demographics, their age, their gender, their interests. And if you can help narrow that down, you can get your ads in front of the right people. But just because you get in front of the right people, what do you want that person to do? If you're targeting women with an ad and you're trying to target weight loss and you send them to a generic page that is your homepage and they don't have that relationship, well, you've potentially lost them because you haven't created a clear reason for what you want them to do. So it's important to create calls to action, your CTA, that aligns to who you're working with. Lastly, so the tip here is your answers to the questions decide your ROI before launch. We are almost done. We're down to the last 3 slides. So I'll jump through these pretty quickly. So big question here is, are you ready? So looking at those last set of questions, if you answered 2 or more to any of those questions, then you might not be ready to start advertising, or you might want to take a pause and reflect about how to make some changes before you continue on, because it is cheaper to prepare and make changes than let ads run and learn the hard way. And it's so fundamental. So readiness is a strategy, and rushing costs more than waiting. So some key takeaways for you is, start with a strong system before running ads. You want to have a foundation. You want to know where you're taking them. You want to know who your audience is and what you're charging. You want to build trust by before asking patients to book. You want to have a relationship with them. Tell them who you are and what your solution is and how you can help them and how you've helped other people. You want to track numbers. You want to record those. You want to use those as your North Star of how to guide you what to do next. And, ads really should be about, helping your clinic grow and not creating more work for you. So if a bad ad is causing you more work and more headache and more money, then you really need to restructure that. You want things to be successful and not detracting. So think of PPC, pay-per-click, as an accelerator. It's a great way to get in front of a lot of people really quickly, but it works best if your car is ready to drive. So on that note, that's the end of the presentation. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, please, by all means, now's the time to do that. And just kind of my last little pro tip that I have on each page here is, the best time to fix your ad strategy is months before your ad budget runs out. Because if you only have 1 month of ad budget, you probably won't have enough runway time to really get that sorted out. So on that note, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we can start discussing.